of early childhood and family support research at Portland State. And I've been working with Ron and Laura, who I will let introduce themselves in a minute, on the Family Leadership Project. It's a partnership with the Early Learning Division. And I'll talk a little bit more about our approach and what we were trying to learn. But it'd be great. We don't have time to go around and get everyone to introduce themselves personally. But maybe if you could just put in the chat your name and where you're from, and something about family leadership and your role in family leadership at your hub or region or wherever you sit. I'll turn it over to Laura, who really was primarily responsible for this project, so she can introduce herself.
Great. Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm really excited about this presentation today. My name is Laura Rodriguez, and I am a researcher at the Center for the Improvement of Child and Family Services. And I'm actually going to just share my screen because we do have a slide for introductions. And so I'm going to do that, make it a little easier. So today's presentation is going to be around the findings of our study that we did in terms of looking at the family leadership activities within hubs that had parent advisory councils. And so today's presentation, we have a team. So the research team was me, Ron, Beth, and then we had a few other bilingual, bicultural interviewers as well, Sandra, Diego. And then we also, along with the researchers, had partners in this study, and 3 of them are here today, so I'll have them introduce themselves, and you can see their names here, but I'll have Lucy go first, and then you can just pass it on to Kimberly and Luis.
Thank you. My name is Lucy Bursino, and I am a member of the Parent Advisory Committee for the Marion County Early Learning, or the hub in Marion County. I've been with the PAC for 3 years, and I was recruited during a focus group at Samanka Place. And I have remained with the PAC and committed to utilize this as an opportunity to voice my lived experience and advocate for change. Kimberly?
My name's Kimberly Sakovac, and I currently teach as the preschool promise teacher for the Harney County ESD. I'm sorry if you can hear my son in the background. When I joined the research group, I was a parent member of the PAC with one of my children attending the school. I'll share my recruitment story a little bit later, but I joined because a good friend asked me to, and there was free food and childcare available. It was also an opportunity to feel important, which as a stay-at-home mom at the time was kind of a breath of fresh air. I'm grateful to be here today. I'll hand this off to Luis.
Yes, good morning. My name is Luis Nava. I'm from Peru, and also I'm a member of the Early Learning Hub in Washington County since the beginning. It's almost 8 years. And before of that, I work as a parent volunteer in the Hillsborough School District, Beaverton, and Forest Grove as well for over 15 years. And back in my country, I have a degree in engineering, and here as a preschool teacher too. Thank you.
And I totally skipped over Ron. I am so sorry. Ron, do you want to introduce yourself? I apologize.
All good. So just to close out introductions, my name is Ron Joseph. I am a researcher at the Center for Improvement of Child and Family Services, where I work with Beth and Laura. For this particular project, I primarily supporting the data collection. And yeah, lovely to be here. Lovely to see you all.
Great. And one other thing I forgot to mention, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in chat. You can also unmute and interrupt us. And if you do put your question in the chat, Ron will be monitoring, and we'll either try to answer it during the presentation, or we have some time set aside at the end for a Q&A. So just wanted to note that as well. Okay, so let's jump in to the next slide. All right, Beth.
All right, so I'm just going to give a quick overview of the project. As I said, our team has been working with the Early Learning Division on a variety of projects related to collecting data to help inform the practice and policy and systems work that they are trying to support across the state. And one of the questions that they had for us this year was around the work that they're doing with the hubs to strengthen and support parent voice and parent leadership through the parent advisory councils. And they asked us to take on a project where we would try to learn from hubs who had existing parent advisory councils so that we could both create information and document information and tell stories that would share some of those experiences about what works and what doesn't work as well, or what the strengths are of the current parent advisory councils and how hubs are interacting with parents and building relationships that really authentically create opportunities for families to be involved in leadership and decision making, how that works, what needs to happen for that to work effectively, and then share those stories with other hubs and other groups who are trying to develop more authentically family-centered ways of including parents in their local hub decision-making processes. So when they asked us to do that, we thought, well, the best way to approach that question would be to actually work with some of the folks who've been involved in parent advisory councils who would help us to sort of co-create the questions and co-create a research design that could really tell the stories authentically and use methods and ask questions in ways that families would understand and resonate with, so that we could really center those voices and those stories. So and Laura will talk a little bit about this. So the purpose of the project was really both to support the Oregon's early learning hubs, to develop strong family leadership and parent advisory councils, as well as to work with some other folks down at OSU who are beginning to provide training and technical assistance to other hubs and communities for developing and strengthening their parent advisory councils. So we partnered with parents, including the folks who joined us today, to share some of that experience, to really talk about their experiences and successes and what's needed to really bring that important family leadership and voice to the center of the work that the early learning folks are trying to do across the state. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ron to talk a little bit about that approach.
All right, so I'm going to be walking us through some of the methodology, as well as a little bit more information about the purpose of the interviews, kind of the questions we were hoping to answer. So as far as methodology, this project was designed with a parent caregiver centered framework. Although we did interview hub directors and staffs as a part of this project, we really wanted the focus to be on the parent/caregiver perspective, with some of the staff information being supportive of what we learned from the parents and caregivers. As Beth alluded to, the work was co-created with an advisory group, which was comprised of parents, caregivers, and hub staff. So we collaborated with them on the design of the sort of overall project, as well as the questions, sort of a collaborative effort all around. As far as the structure of the interviews themselves, we did them as best as we could as one-on-one interviews. They were conducted in both English and Spanish because we were fortunate on our team to have a team that was comprised of folks that were bilingual in English and Spanish. We also were set up to conduct interviews in other languages through simultaneous translation, although we didn't end up using that for this particular set of interviews. Interviews were conducted in a variety of ways. So primarily via remote video through Zoom, although there were some interviews that were conducted in person. So a bit of a mix there. And the interviewers were primarily recruited through the advisory groups that we mentioned before, as well as from recommendations from hub directors and staffs. And as I said, we also interviewed directors and staff at the hubs as well. So that's a little bit of information around the methodology. To get into some of the information around the purpose of the interview, sort of the questions that we were hoping to answer. As I said, we were speaking with parents and caregivers primarily, and then hub staff sort of supportive. And we were hoping to learn specifically how the various hubs were formed, sort of the function and operation, how that sort of worked day to day, the role that the parents and caregivers had in the PAC and hub decision making, as well as other processes, governance, leadership, what was sort of the influence that that the PACs had there, as well as the kind of support that the various hubs were providing to the various PACs. You know, look different in each region. We're sort of hoping to, you know, get an idea of what all that looked like, as well as any recommendations that the parents or caregivers that were participating had for creating avenues for more authentic parent voice, governance, leadership within the hub decision making. So a lot of questions that we're hoping to answer, but yeah, that's just a brief overview of it all. I think from there, I'm going to turn things back over to Laura.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, and so who did we interview? We had 14 parents or caregivers that we interviewed, and we interviewed 6 hub staff members. And again, those were staff members that were somehow connected to the PAC. So whether they were directors or like a PAC liaison or specifically the PAC coordinator. And in particular to the parents and caregivers, their genders were pretty much almost half. There was a little bit more female identified parents and caregivers, and about less than 50% were male parent caregivers. Ron mentioned we had English and Spanish interviews done. We also had parents who spoke Arabic, and we had several who were multilingual or bilingual, and we had a few that were monolingual in Spanish only. And then the range of experience of the parents that we interviewed for being on the PACs were really wide. We had some parents who had just joined a PAC, so they were on the PAC less than a year, to parents or caregivers that were on their individual PAC for about 8 or more years. So it was a really wide range of experience that we talked to in these interviews. And in terms of the parents and the hub staff, the counties really ranged. So we got a good sample from Clackamas, Frontier, Lane, Marion and Polk, Multnomah, and Washington counties. So those were the counties that the parents and or hub staff were from. So we're going to kind of jump into some of the primary findings. For more in-depth information, we do have a report that we have sent out to the ELD along with the executive summary, but these are some of the primary findings that we are going to touch on today. So I'm going to hand it over to Lucy.
Thank you, Laura. So parent roles. These roles are unique to each other. There are various roles that parents are able to assume within the PACs. Some of these include, but they're not limited to, assisting in designing program and services, family strengthening exercises. There's a wide range of classes and workshops offered, and from anywhere from advisory to healthy and joyful parenting. Another role that we've assumed is encouraging advocacy. And to give an example, about a year and a half ago, the PAC presented all of us with an opportunity to register and participate in a workshop called Advocating for Your Child. At the time, I didn't know it, but I was definitely in need of supportive services and guidance for accessing additional resources for my toddler, as she was not meeting milestones, the developmental milestones. So I was frustrated, and I felt a little overwhelmed and somewhat defeated. So I signed up for this seminar or this workshop, and I left feeling so empowered and so knowledgeable that and just a wealth of resources were presented, that the outcome was me successfully accessing early intervention services and petitioning and being approved for Social Security benefits for Jocelyn. So I came away from that just full of knowledge, just empowered, and now I'm using that experience to advocate for coworkers, clients, peers. So it was just really remarkable.
Thank you, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
So Kimberly is going to talk a little bit about our recruitment finding.
Come here.
All right, for recruitment, I wanted to share my personal recruitment experience, which started with the sign-up sheet. It was for various different ways that I could be involved with my child's school. I marked play groups because I had a baby at the time. I was new to the area, and I figured it would probably be the only thing I could commit to. I attended a play group a couple of times, and I was befriended by my family advocate, Ramla. We became good friends. And when my then baby was old enough to attend preschool, Ramla asked me if I would be part of the PAC. And my involvement with the PAC, it led to job opportunities and a sense of importance, because I got to help my son's school just by fulfilling my small role. So a way that some parent advisory councils can recruit, they can recruit sign-up sheets during enrollment, word of mouth, family advocates. It's important to use inclusive language and have a diverse representation of the local community. An example of that for our PAC here is that we have some of our students are part of the Burns Paiute tribe, and so we try really hard to get a parent from them so that way that they're properly represented. For me personally, I felt that Ramla as well went well with my recruitment story. She didn't treat me like a job duty. She invested time and friendship before asking something of me. And I feel that's really helpful for future PAC recruitments, making that follow through a priority. It gained my school a teacher, so, which has been really great this last year, but I feel like the opportunities are endless with that. I'll pass this on to Luis.
Okay. How parents participate and support, join, learn, and lead. So why parents join the PACs? I see there is 3 ways that parents or family members join the PAC. Just because for the fall, the early learning hub has to have a committee, so there is always looking for parents, new parents. The second way is through the voice, passing the information between all members that they make comments in the community, engage some engagements through there. And the third way is like myself. We are always looking for something to do, something to serve, or in some places where we can bring some of our knowledge and expertise. So those are the 3 ways that usually parents join the PACs. Another issue that is important is how we are going to support those parents to be, welcoming, but also willing to keep going and participate in the PACs. First of all, we need to be very open about the language that we use. especially in the area where we live in Washington County. We are having like 119, 118 different languages. So in our pack, we have people from different parts of the world: Arabics, Somalis, Hispanics, Anglos, etc. So when we provide information, we try to, provide that information in the basic 8, 9 languages that are most, common in the county. But also during the meetings, we have interpretation. And usually we switch between meetings, one meeting in one language, the following meeting in another language. So everybody has the opportunity to having the meeting in their own language, unless one time every 2-3 months or a year, etc. Another thing that we know is very important for the community and for the parents is to give them all the opportunities and resources for them to be comfortable and be willing to participate. Like, for example, in certain cases, we help them with the max cars passes so they can use the public transportation. We provide food during the meeting, but also we provide childcare or they care for the parents for being more comfortable during the meeting when the kids are playing or doing some activities with the people who is taking care of them. So that kind of support is very important, because if the parent feels welcoming and feels that he's being very well treated and attended, they are willing to participate and they are more free to also give more inputs and ideas. And finally, the opportunities. The opportunities are very important because, as I mentioned in the beginning, there is parents that join the pack because they want to do something else. They want to bring their expertise or their talents. So if we don't have opportunities, if we don't give opportunity for them to grow and shine, they're gonna leave the pack, and that's something that we were very focused in Washington County, and that's why we are very successful. Back to Laura.
Great, thank you so much. So from the findings, we also came out with recommendations. And again, these are recommendations that were provided by the parent caregivers that we interviewed, and also some of the hub staff members. And so again, we picked out some of the key recommendations that the parent are going to walk through. There are more in the report if you'd like to see them, but we're going to start with this first recommendation, and Lucy, go for it.
All right, so recommendations. I would like to see some consistent, structured, and ongoing onboarding provided. And I would like to just point out that this would help better prepare us parents for the PAC work. So as we're bringing on new members, as we are working together to, in the community or on an activity, collaboration, we just be all on the same page. And so with that, I think that if we had a streamlined training process, it really would strengthen our collaboration. I think our reach would be a little further.
Great, thank you. Kimberly, the next recommendation.
We wanted to ensure that there's action taken when PAC members provide input. So feedback loops, feedback loops and transparency with PAC members and hub leadership, and kind of give each member a voice, a personal experience with this. For me, it's really important for me to feel that I'm there for a reason. I'm not just a number to make paperwork easy or anything like that. And an example of that was when COVID changed sanitary guidelines and which consequently removed toothbrushing from the classrooms. It really concerned me because there's a big oral health issue in my community, and there were many preschoolers that had severe decay. They hardly ever brushed their teeth. And so I asked about it during a PAC meeting. I voiced my concerns, and as a result, it was looked into and eventually brought back. But what I appreciate about the experience is that my voice was heard, my concern wasn't brushed off, and there was transparency given as to why it was taken out of the classrooms in the first place. And it took some time, but I was informed there was a timeline to get toothbrushing back in the classrooms. And I feel like that's a really great example, just for a good model for closing that loop with the PAC members when there's issues or concerns that need to be addressed. And I think I'm passing this to Luis.
Okay, about more recommendations, ensure PAC members are meaningfully engaged in hub decision making. What does mean this? For example, in Washington County, there is the governance body is the steering committee. And we as a parents, we are part of the steering committee, but not just, for the fall landing there. No, we choose who is gonna be there, but we prepare that parent. And also the members of the steering committee, because they are members of school districts, non-profit organizations, DHS, providers or county government. They are more familiar with the procedures, for the meeting procedures and all those issues. So in the beginning, they decided to, to help the parents, like a mentorship, and that's why the parents start getting a little bit more prepared and more easy to, attend to the meetings, understand and participate. So in one hand, this is very important because if we are just being part of the committee just because it's a requirement for the state to having a committee, that's a different ballgame. That's why many parents leave, but in our case, as you can see in the left picture, we are meeting and we are having some decisions that we are taking as a parent group, and then the members who are in the steering committee, they brought that information to the steering committee. And then when we do the activities, we got some resolutions. We later on, the parents, we saw what we did, we saw what we talked about, our ideas, and that's, empowerment. We feel really that we've been listened and we've been taking attention. In the right side, you can see there is legislators in the center of the picture, senators and state representatives from our area. And what we do is, I know we cannot do lobbying, but we educate them. We, use a better way to provide information to them about our county, about our needs, and they are gonna make the decision by their own. Can you pass to the next picture, please? Okay, giving plenty of opportunities to participate in networks, conference, etc. This is very important, because, for example, in the top right picture is one of our 2 annual reunions that we have with the members and their families, because we need time to enjoy ourselves with our families. That's like a re-energize for ourselves. In the left side is a conference. We participate in conference locally, state, and also nationwide. So that's very important because that's a reward for the parents' efforts, but also they bring some information to us about what's going on in the rest of the country or state. And on the right side bottom is the PAC members participating in the 4th of July parade in Hillsborough. That's the way that we, show the community who we are, and also promote the preschool promise and all the services that we do. Next slide, please. Provide opportunities for personal growth, leadership, and professional development. This is very important because, as I told you, parents are very eager to learn, to do the extra mile, and that's why we ask the hub to get us opportunity to be trained as a leaders, to be trained in different areas. Like, for example, we choose more than 6 years ago to be focusing in STEM, and since then we've been doing a fantastic work, preparing ourselves, learning ourselves about everything, all the related to STEM, and now we are putting in practice that. Can you pass to the next one? Okay, here is one of the examples. In the left side corner on the top, you can see, for example, you can see members from different communities, Arabics, Hispanics, Anglos, and Somalis. We were developing our first STEM kit that we are gonna give away to the children in Washington County. So we did the work. We created all the literature, whatever is in the box. We were decided what is gonna be. In the right side picture, you can see parents and members of the community working and putting together all the boxes. And in the bottom, we didn't give away the boxes just because. No, we organized workshops where we have the families attending to the different schools, and we give them the boxes, but we teach them how to use and how to multiply those basic ideas and multiply in more ideas. Next slide, please. We continue with the idea of STEM. I don't know, but we are very excited in bringing the STEM to the early learning education. In the left side bottom, in the top left side, you can see that we provide videos. We did videos about STEM, and we bring those videos to the community. The idea was to provide them more information about how they can do those experiments at home. Those videos are in different languages and are in our website, available for whoever wants to use it. In the right side, you can see one of the members of the PAC that she received training for STEM activities. And now we are doing almost 36 presentations in different preschools settings, and we do experiments with the children. As you can see, children are very excited, and it's very important to see those children at that age just learning new vocabulary and being exposed to experiments that they weren't supposed to do in the regular world. And also, we are very excited about the idea to start training new members in the community to be more facilitators in this STEM. And we already got our first cohort last year. We got people from 9 different languages. So now whatever experiment that we do or whatever activity we create, we can do it in 9 different languages. We got presenters for those 9 different languages. So as you can see, we are growing very fast. And finally, the STEM Mania is a project that we are gonna do this summer. It's gonna be presentations around the county where we are gonna do activities related to STEM, free for the community, by no charge. Next slide, please. And this is something that we are exploring. We always are exploring for something new. So here we are thinking more seriously about math and computer science. Many people, when they hear computer science for preschoolers, are you crazy? And I told them, no, this is the basics of computer science. These children are learning how to program these robots. In the left side, those are bees, little bees, bee boots, that the children need to program, and those bits have to go around those mats. But then later, we put numbers, we put geometric figures or letters, or you know, we little by little, we start getting more and more and more creative, but also getting the children ready to learn a little bit more about the basics of computer science. In the right side, the children create that scenario, like a street, and they put the houses and the cars. And as you can see, those little squares that are purple, pink, orange, green, those are spheral Indy cars. So this car has a photo cell in the bottom that read those cars. So as you can see, it's very fun for them, but also they are learning the basics about computer science. And I got the support. I'm working in PCC, and I got the support from the chair of the computer science department, and give me a lot of information how to improve this. And she is very excited that we are doing this in Washington County for our children, especially since we are parents. And thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you so much. And so,
sorry, Laura.
Yeah.
I wanted to pause. We do have a question
Yeah.
in the chat.
Go for it.
Yeah. So, question for the PAC members: can you recommend any of the leadership trainings you have attended or offered to parents? It's a question for Luis and the other parents.
Okay, in our case in Washington County, we create our own training. We receive several trainings from different organizations related to parent engagement, parent involvement, like opening doors, abriendo puertas, or the incredible years, etc. But with the years that we have involved in this, we create our own program of leadership program that we share with our members. But also we are looking for, you know, an organization to provide this kind of training to get more advanced.
Yeah, thank you. Kimberly and Lucy, is there anything you'd like to add as well?
We haven't, so our PAC hasn't really transitioned into actual training. We're offering workshops and engagement opportunities, like with community partners. So Washington County is considerably bigger than Marion County. So we are probably going to connect with Luis and see where that takes us just the same. So yes, share away, Luis.
We're kind of in the same boat, so we're a pretty small county. So, but I bet eventually we'll get there.
All right, much appreciated. I'll hand things back over to you, Laura.
Awesome. So we wanted to end with, so what we heard, some recommendations really specifically to different PACs around the state. And we wanted to end with some system level recommendations that were specific to, when I talk about systems, talking about the ELD, being able to support hubs and the different PACs. And so some of the recommendations that came out of the interviews that we did were to have for more clear and specific guidelines and structures. And this is more around statewide guidelines and structures. We definitely heard that folks want to keep the local flexibility, but creating more structures at the state level or systems level would be really helpful. We also heard having a common shared framework, and from some in the report, you also see this. One example of a common framework that could be used for community engagement or parent engagement could be something like the spectrum of community engagement, and or as another public education model could be used also as a framework for creating and sustaining PACs. Another recommendation that we heard was to provide supports for implementing these types of family-centered or family-engaged frameworks, and what this could look like. It has different levels, but of course there's logistical support, so that could mean creating different types of templates that can be used, like agenda templates or meeting type templates. But this could also be like guidelines for supporting parents, so having those types of things that then can be locally modified and flexible for the local PACs. And then there's also the system level support, which is providing a shared vision and goal for effectively supporting authentic family engagement. This was something that we heard and is really important to have that guidance from the ELD around that shared vision and goals for these PACs around the state. And then lastly, dedicated resources specifically for PACs, for the hubs to form and sustain their PACs. And these resources can be, or we heard, financial resources, as you heard from Luis. There's like stipends, there's gift cards, there's childcare, there's food. So those types of financial supports are really important. And also having a dedicated FTE or some type of hub staff member that can support and be a liaison to those PACs in order to navigate not only the internal workings of the hub, but also just the internal like system workings of the early childhood services and programs. And I think those were just some overviews that we wanted to give. And now we are open to question and answer. And I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see each other's faces. All right.
I'd be curious if anyone would share, if anyone could share like just anything that resonated with you from either the experiences or the recommendations, things that other folks might be interested in supporting moving forward. Just wondering about any responses or kind of ahas or takeaways that folks might have.
Beth, can I add something?
Sure, of course. And then
Yes,
we have a couple of questions. Yeah.
Yes, Laura just mentioned at the end of the previous slide about the importance of the stipend, the importance of the support from the team. You know, that's very important. But also, I forgot to mention something. Is about the trust. We need to build the trust between the administration or the leadership or the governance from the hub and the parents, because based on that trust is where we are more willing to participate and feel more comfortable bringing our expertise and doing our, involvement in a more meaningful way. So trust is very important. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important, Luis. I'm glad you said that. And I want to take the two hands, but I do have a follow-up question, which is, in your experience, what was important about what hubs did with your group that helped to create that trust? How does that develop?
Okay.
Big question, I know.
Yeah, it's a process, because in the beginning when we start, we didn't know anything, especially in my case, I start when the hub didn't exist. So we create everything from the scratch, you know. But through the time and through the years, you know, being with the members in direct contact, being free to talk, because that's important, being free to talk, you know, that's when you start building that relationship. And later on, you feel the trust. When you, sometimes there is comments that you cannot make in the meeting, you know, but aside, you can have an extra conversation with some of the members or one of the governance body members. And then you feel that you were listening, but also that your voice is hearing. And then that trust start building up. And with the years, you know, the other members start seeing how you work and how you relate to certain of the administrators, and they start, you know, feeling that they want to do the same thing. They want to feel the same, you know, friendship, the same approach, and that's for default. They start following little by little. So that trust is so important for this work.
Thank you for that. And we did have some hands. Tammy, did you want to retract your question?
Oh, I just added it to the
okay,
to the chat. It was just confirming to hear that the financial support, because that was one of my questions moving forward. We're putting these processes in place to provide stipends and food to support our parent councils. And is it something we're putting in place and then it's going to be gone in the next biennium? And so it's good to hear that that was an important piece. And hope that it is something that we can continue, because that would break the trust that Luis is talking about, right? Is we provide all this support and then we have to take it away because we don't have the money to do it.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. And Margie, and then Shira.
I think, Lucy, did you have something to add to the trust piece from your perspective before we take other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that my PAC has demonstrated the willingness to trust each other. There's just something to be said about sharing a meal. So I'm just kind of piggybacking onto the food and the dinner time, aside from acknowledging that these meetings are in the evening and that we all have a family that we tend to. And so providing dinner is appreciated, but just the ability to sit around a table and have a meal with our peers, really, I feel like it makes us stronger as a unit. So I just want to acknowledge that, yes, it's extremely important and very much appreciated.
Thank you, Lucy. Okay, Margie, thank you for the patience.
Thank you. And, I want to congratulate Lucy. She's been a great PAC member for us at Marion and Polk. I've been a part of the hub since our origins, and we just automatically built in the expectation we would always have a parent advisory committee. It took us about 6 months to stand up the first group. We recruited a lot of people who were in parent leadership roles in other early learning, early childhood services sectors. So these were people who already had some experience. We also got some help from our local Head Start provider, who had a trainer that did some initial workshop for our initial members. So I think those are really important for us. But, I think that what Luis and Lucy both illustrate is the importance of really having the participants understand how important their voices are to help shape what we're doing with services in our region and also statewide, and also to make sure that they're receiving value back in terms of seeing the benefits that they can then take back to their own families. This is taking time away from their families, but a long time ago, I served on the city budget committee and a number of different city task forces, because I was just frustrated that all of our policies were being made by a bunch of old white guys. And, I'm Caucasian, but, all they cared about was police and fire, and they didn't value parks and libraries and other things that I thought were really important. So I think, we need to develop our PAC members to help with the leadership of our hubs, but we also need to help these folks become leaders in their communities overall. So I really see this as a broader community development process. So we're planting seeds in their children, but also in these parents who can be great spokespeople for the needs in our community.
Thank you, Margie. All right, Shira.
Thank you. Well, I first also want to echo what Tammy brought up. As we are just starting our Parent Leadership Council, I am really nervous that it's not going to be sustainable. It does, as the parents talked about, it does require dedicated FTE. We're not starting out that way in order to sustain the incentives and all the other and ultimately projects. I am really concerned that it's not going to be sustainable. So I really appreciate Tammy for bringing that up and helping me think about other ways that we can make it sustainable and support that. I did have a question for the parents. As we are just starting our council, we had our first meeting last month and it was beautiful. And we are hoping that our parents come back. We are starting to, I want to talk about how do we make decisions? What are the decision-making processes? And I was just wondering if you could share from your experience on your PACs, what decision-making processes you used. Did you elect somebody to be the chair or to be a lead, or did you go with just majority?
In our particular PAC, we there's no president, there's no positions or elected officials. I think we have a couple parents that are on the board. Is that right, Margie?
We have one member from the PAC who serves on the board. It's been really challenging because our board meets from 3 to 4:30 once a month, which is school pickup time, which is absolutely the worst possible time for families to be able to join the board. And we also don't provide childcare for the board, so it makes it really difficult. So, that's one of the things I hope we can figure out a new way in which to help bridge that gap. On the resource side, we carved the resources out from the very beginning. It was a part of our second staff members' job duties to support the PAC. And we always budgeted the dollars for childcare, dinner, and stipends for our PAC members from the very beginning.
So important. Thanks, Margie. Kimberly and then Luis.
For our PAC, we use parliament procedure, and so there's a chair, there's a secretary. It was actually one of the things that it took me a little bit to learn, because learning all the I's and the just one question at a time, but it did really help kind of create order, and so everybody kind of knew how the meeting was going to proceed, and voting on things was pretty straightforward. And if there was concerns, that was also a pretty straightforward process, but it eliminated a lot of confusion. So I appreciated that about our PAC.
Okay, in our case, when we start the PAC, yes, we have that structure that we have in a president and all that, but later on we decided to modify that, and now just one of the members of the staff is participating as the coordinating the agenda in the meeting. But we as a parents, we contribute with the agenda. Before we end the meeting, we have some ideas for the following month, or usually we are having projects. But Margie touched a very important point about timing. because, for example, in the steering committee, the meetings is 2 to 4 p.m. is the craziest time for the parents, but in that particular case, there is nothing we can do because most of the members of the steering committee are person from a school district, from nonprofit organization, the DHS. So they usually program the meetings during their working hours, not after hours. So we have, as a parent, we have to, adjust to that. But there is ways that we can, help with that. Just by conversation, they can have some kind of stipend for the parent to have for paying for daycare for that day or something like that, and now we are having the opportunity to use Zoom or any other platform that we can be virtual, so it's more easy. Before it was like a 3 hours for just mobilizing to the meeting, be in the meeting, and then going back home. Now it's more easy to participate. So that's something that we need to be aware in order to give more opportunities to the parents to participate.
Timing.
Anyone else have insights or questions for our parent leaders or for us? All right. Well, I believe, so I just want to, Laura, turn it over to you. Do you want to close us out and say some words of gratitude? I am really thankful for being able to be here. And also, I know we have the slides we can share, as well as the reports are very close to being ready to disseminate. So maybe you could update the group on that.
Sure, yes. So thank you again to Louise, Kimberly, and Lucy, who not given only their time to the advisory work groups, which was, a few months of involvement, but also meeting and putting these slides together in presentation. So thank you for your leadership and for your time today. And yes, we have the executive summary and the report for this whole study, which again has more details, and it might answer some questions that some folks may still have lingering. We do have the reports being finalized in Spanish language as well. And so I think I will hand those over to, I handed over the English reports to Hillary already for dissemination. And then once the Spanish language translated reports, I will send that over to Hillary as well, probably within the next week or so. But yeah, I think I'll hand it back to, I guess, Hillary.
I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you everyone so much for coming, attending. I will send out the report, the slides, and the recording from this, so you can feel free to share it with any staff that weren't able to make it today. Thank you all so much for doing the report, and thank you all to the parents who participated. We really appreciate and value your input and feedback, and wouldn't be able to do this work successfully without all of you. So thank you, and thank you everyone, and have a wonderful day.